All right, welcome to Cretitas Math. If you haven't subscribed, please click the subscribe button now and make sure that you click on the little bell so you get notified of any future videos. All right, so let's get into it. I was asked in class to record a video going through each question in the algebra quiz, so that's what we're going to be doing here. If you don't need to watch the beginning of this video, you can skip ahead and only watch the questions that you want to see the answers to. So we're going to start off with our first question. In number 1, there may or may not be an error in the following example. So I'm not telling you if there's an error, I'm just telling you there might be one. It's up to you to know whether or not these are correct. So there may or may not be an error in the following examples. If there is an error, you have to state what it is and how to fix it. So in the first example here, you see that the two exponents, 3 and 4 here, were added together to give you 7. This is a power of a power. So this is incorrect since when you have a power of a power, these two exponents should be multiplied together. So here we're going to say that this is incorrect because power of a power would give us x to the power of 12. Okay, so number 2 here, we have y to the power of 5 plus y to the power of 4, and the proposed solution is y to the power of 9. So those two exponents were added together. So this is also incorrect because you cannot add unlike terms. So remember when we're talking about like terms are any term with the same letter, so the variable has to match, and the exponent on that variable has to match. So in this case, we have the same letter, that's fine, but the exponents on our y's, those don't match. And that's why we can't add these two together because they're not the same type of thing. This is a y to the 5, this is a y to the 4. You can't add those up. Okay, so moving on to number 2, this is a simplify and reduce algebraic expressions. So starting with number 1, here we have a power of a power. So we have negative 8b5 all raised to the second power. So that power of 2 needs to get applied to each piece within those brackets. So we're going to get a negative 8 to the power of 2. And we're going to get a b to the 5 to the power of 2. So I'm just writing the intermediate step here. And this part is important, this negative 8 squared. This is an important example because you have to remember that any negative number raised to an even exponent is going to give you a positive answer because this is the same as negative 8 times negative 8. And those two negatives will cancel out to give you a positive 64. So this answer is 64b to the 10, since with a power of a power, those two exponents get multiplied together. Okay, moving on to number 2 here. We have C3D5 over C4D. So here we have a division. We are going to be subtracting our exponents. So this d has a 1. I'm just going to zoom in. So there is a invisible 1 exponent here on the d at the bottom. You have to remember that that's there. So these are all going to get subtracted. Okay, so here when you do c to the 3 minus c to the 4, you get c to the negative 1. And then d to the 5 minus d to the 1, you get d to the 4. You have to remember that this c to the negative 1 can't stay on the top. You need to move it so that you get a positive exponent. So we're going to move that down to the denominator where it won't bother us anymore, and we're going to get d to the 4 over c. Another way to visualize this, if you don't really like dealing with these negative exponents, that's fine. Another way you can think about it is you have 3 C's on top, 5 D's on top, and then you have 4 C's on the bottom, and then 1 D on the bottom. And you can just visualize that cancellation, and that will make it clear. Okay, I have 1 C left at the bottom, and I have 4 D's left on the top, which tells me that my answer has to be D to the 4 over C. If you like doing it this way and this makes more sense, then that's what you should do. If you like doing the subtraction and then moving things over, then that's what you should do. Whatever ensures that you will get a right answer. Okay, moving on to question 3. This is an order of operations question, so you have to make sure you remember to use those order of operations. So I'm just going to write in our reminder here. So we have BEDMAS. So our first step is brackets. We have to take a look within our brackets here. Is there anything that we can do in here? So again, we have that like term situation coming up. We have an a squared, we have an a, and we have a regular constant. None of these are like terms, so we can't do anything within this set of brackets. And then within this set of brackets, we don't have any pluses or minuses or anything that we can do in here. So for brackets, we're done. For exponents, we do have an exponent that we can deal with. That is this one right here. This 2 can get, we can use our power of a power rule to distribute that 2 inside that bracket. So we're going to start there. I'm going to rewrite this. So minus 3a plus 6. And now we're going to be doing 3 raised to a power of 2. So that's 3 times 3. It's not 3 times 2. It's 3 to the power of 2, which means we're doing 3 times itself. Okay, so we're going to get plus. So that's going to be 9. And then we're going to be doing a raised to the power of 2. So that's done with our exponents. Now on to division. We do not have any division, so we can cross that off. Now, M for multiplication. We do have a multiplication. It's right over here, this level 1 multiplication. So we need to distribute that 4a to each term within those brackets. So 4a times 2a squared, we're going to get 8 from our 4 times 2. And then our letters times our letters. So our a times our a squared, that's going to give us a cubed. Now again, number times number, so 4 times negative 3, it's going to give us negative 12. And then our a times our a, we're going to get a squared. Excuse me. Okay, so our next step, we're doing our 4a times 6. We're going to be getting positive 24. And then this is an important part, is that just because this 6 does not have a letter here, does not mean that we just leave this a forgotten. It does need to get carried down here. So you have to rewrite it and put in our a. And then plus our 9a squared. So now we've done our multiplication. We're on to our next step, which is addition subtraction. So now we have to look for those like terms and see if there's anything that we can combine. We have this a squared and a squared term, so these two we can combine together. We're going to get 8a cubed minus 3a squared plus 24a. And that is the final answer for number 3. Okay, for number 4, we have this division going on. So it's this entire polynomial divided by this monomial, so this single term polynomial. Remember, when we have division, what we do is little mini divisions. So it's going to be each of these terms divided by the same thing here. So I'm going to rewrite this with 3 mini divisions. So I'm going to have 2x to the 5y to the 3 divided by 2xy plus 8x to the 3y squared divided by 2xy and then 14xy divided by 2xy. Okay, so now we have to do, again, our numbers divided by our numbers. So I'm just going to match up, I'm going to color code all the stuff that matches here. So we're looking at numbers with numbers, x's with x's, and y's with y's, just so that is super clear. So our first step here are 2 divided by 2, that gives us 1. X to the 5 divided by x. So remember, we are subtracting those exponents. We get x to the 4. Y cubed divided by y. So that's exponent 3 minus exponent 1. We get y squared left over. Okay, so now for our second piece of our little divisions, 8 divided by 2, we get 4. X cubed divided by x squared. Y squared divided by y, we get just 1y. Now we have 14 divided by 2, that's 7. And then this part is important to remember. So here we have x divided by x. That's equal to 1. But because we have this 7 here already written, we don't have to write anything. Same thing for this y. Because we have y divided by y, excuse me. Again, that is equal to 1. And we don't have to write anything because this 7 is here. So what is happening is we have the 7 times 1 from the x divided by x times 1 that comes from the y divided by y. But then 7 times 1 is just 7. So we know that we don't have to write anything there because there's already a 7 there. If this was 14xy divided by 14xy, then our entire answer would just be 1. It would not be 0. It does not just disappear. If you start off with 3 terms here, you're going to end up with 3 terms at the end. So always be careful there. So at this step, I'm just going to put a little circle, put a little danger sign, just so you remember this is something that you should slow down and really make sure that you're looking at it properly and that you remember not to write those x's or y's and to just leave that 7 by itself. Okay, next question. So this one was a tough one. This one is one that I recommend everyone practices a few times. So when you have a binomial squared, and by binomial I mean a polynomial that just has 2 terms, that's what we mean by binomial squared, you do not distribute this exponent to each one. That's wrong. What you do is you expand this into a level 2 multiplication. This squared means that everything inside the bracket, so the entire 3x plus 5, gets multiplied by itself. So we have 2 of them multiplying each other. So we expand that out to a level 2 multiplication, and then we have to do that level 2 multiplication. So we're going to do 3x times this entire bracket, and then 5 times this entire bracket. So I'm going to expand that out. And now we've created 2 little level 1 multiplications that we distribute. Okay, so this first one we have 3x times 3x, we get 9x squared, and then 3x times 5, we get 15x. And this is something that I saw a lot of mistakes, is this x, because this 5 doesn't have an x, you tend to kind of just drop the x and forget about it. It's very important that you carry that x with you and you put it in your answer here. Okay, so next one we have 5 times 3x, so we're getting another 15x, and then 5 times 5 is 25. So now we've done all our multiplying, we have to check if we have any like terms, and we do. We have these two 15x's, so we can simplify all of this to 9x squared plus 30x plus 25. Okay, now for number 6. For number 6, this is a polynomial subtracted by another polynomial. So this is a subtraction. We are not doing any multiplications. I saw some people do this as a multiplication. So they thought that it was all of this times all of this, but that subtraction there is really telling you that you are subtracting the two from each other. So to do this subtraction, you need to distribute that negative sign to each term inside the brackets. So this is the one that I always put the danger on. I always say danger, your heart stops, you slow down, and you always need to rewrite it. So we're going to do it the long way. We're rewriting that first bracket, and now we are rewriting the second bracket, but we are changing the sign of every single term inside there. So that positive 3b, that's going to become negative 3b. That positive 15 is going to become negative 15. And that negative 54b squared, that's going to become plus 54b squared. Okay, so now I'm just going to pull out my calculator here. Come on. Okay, so now we're going to group our like terms. We have a b squared here and another b squared here. We have a b over here and a b over here. And we have some constants. I'm going to start with the b squareds. We have 7 plus 54. So we have 61b squared. And then I recommend that you kind of cross them off as you go so that you know you've dealt with them. We have a 12b, so 12 minus 3, so we have 9b, and then again we can cross those off. And then we have a 64 minus 15, so plus 49. And that is our answer. Okay, for number 7. This is dealing with negative exponents, so we need to take these negative exponents and we need to move them so that they become positive. So I'm just going to highlight all my pieces with the negative exponents. So my b is the base of a negative exponent, my y is also the base of a negative exponent, and then the only other thing that I can do here is I can reduce these, this number. So 3 over 24, that can get reduced. Oops. Here, so 3 over 24. So we can start with that. So in my calculator, I'm going to put in 3 over 24 as a fraction. And I'm just going to change my calculator to the fraction setting. And it tells me that that is equal to 1 over 8. So I'm going to redraw my fraction line. And I'm going to just put in 1 over 8 instead of 3 over 24, because those are equivalent fractions. And then I can cross off that 3 over 24. My a and my c to the power of 3, both of these are positive exponents, and there's no other a's or c's in the entire expression, so we're not going to be able to do anything with them, but we don't want to forget them, so we're going to rewrite them right away. A, c to the 3, exactly in the same place where they started, and we cross them off so we know that they're dealt with. And now we're going to look at this b to the negative 5. So in order to get rid of this negative exponent, we need to move the entire thing down into the denominator. So we're going to take all of this, we're going to move it down, and that's going to become b to the power of positive 5. And then we can cross that off. And the same thing's going to happen with this y to the power of negative 8. If we move that to the top, well, now it's going to become y to the power of positive 8. And now that's been dealt with. So now this is your final answer. You have, the only thing is that if you wanted to, you don't have to put this 1. I think it's a little bit more clear with the 1, but it's up to you if you want to leave it there. So I'm going to leave it there. So you have 1a y to the 8 over 8 c to the 3 b to the 5. Okay, so number 8. This is another level 2 multiplication, so we need to set this up. We're going to be doing each term from the first set of brackets. So 4x is going to multiply all of this second bracket, and then 8 is going to also multiply all of this second bracket. So we're going to set that up. I'm going to have 4x times 5x minus 6, and then plus 8 times 5x minus 6. So now we have two level 1 multiplications. So the first one is this 4x times 5x. That gives us 20x squared. And then 4x times negative 6. That gives us negative 24x. So make sure to put that x there. The next one, we have 8 times 5x, 8 times negative 6. So 8 times 5x, that gives us 40x. 8 times negative 6, that gives us negative 48. So now we can group our like terms. We have these two terms that have x's that we can group. So I'm going to put this in. Negative 24 plus 40, that gives us 16. So we're going to have 20x squared plus 16 minus, oops, look at that, plus 16x minus 48. So be careful.